2025 NBA draft has come to a close, but the moves do not stop for Philadelphia as the Sixers have signed 4 players in undrafted free agency that we are going to talk about here on today's show. Before we get into that, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to all the real ones out there that joined us the past couple of nights for our live shows of rounds 1 and 2 of the NBA draft. Amassed over 16,000 views across the 2 nights. Picked up almost 200 new subscribers. So if you're a new subscriber who joined us during our live shows, type me in the comments. I'll give you a little shout out down there. And we really appreciate everybody who has tuned in. We are now over 22,600 subscribers. Let's keep growing the channel. Sixers news every single day right here for you guys. I try to make it the best content I can from a Sixers fan for fellow Sixers fans. So lock us in. Hit that sub button. As I mentioned off the top, 4 names the Sixers are signing in undrafted free agency. Hunter Sallis, a former 5-star recruit who went to Gonzaga, then Wake Forest. Igor Milicic Jr. out of Tennessee. Izan Almansa for the Perth Wildcats over in Spain. And then St. Thomas, wing out of USC. Let's start with perhaps the most intriguing UDFA in the entire NBA, quite frankly. And that is Hunter Sallis, the guard out of Wake Forest. I mentioned a former 5-star recruit, has some pedigree. Reminds you of someone the Sixers signed last year in undrafted free agency in Justin Edwards. Maybe. 6'3", 181 pounds, again, out of Wake Forest. Had a pretty good year counting-wise for Wake Forest over there last year. 18 points, 5 rebounds, shooting almost 46% from the field. And what's notable here, Sixers signing him to a 2-way contract. So clearly have a lot of interest in the player, not just a summer league invite or an Exhibit 10 contract. This is a 2-way deal. Again, showing me the Sixers have a lot of interest in the player, and it makes sense. Sallis, as I mentioned, a former 5-star recruit, was the number 13 overall player in the ESPN Top 100 back in 2021. Ended up going to Gonzaga for a couple of years, but never was really able to find his footing, unfortunately. So then ended up transferring to Wake Forest for the past couple of seasons, where both years at Wake Forest was a 2-time All-ACC first-team member and showed some strong signs after a disappointing first couple of years of his career. Was able to get to the ACC, where he did show that progression and that skill set that made him a 5-star recruit. Now, for Hunter Sallis, a savvy dribbler, uses fakes to beat defenders. He's, at that guard spot, obviously a little bit shorter. Now, he does, at about 6'3", 6'4", have a 6'10" wingspan, a +7 wingspan from height to that wingspan. That is what you'll love to see. Finishes really well at the rim, shot 63% at the rim. And despite being, I wouldn't say super undersized at 6'3", but he's not a true point guard. Very active defender, fights through screens. And if he does get a little bit bigger, he's currently only 181 pounds, I think that could help him as well. Does have flashes of shooting, and we'll look at his numbers in a moment, but really held back by a slow release. Only shot 30.5% on all catch and shoot looks in college, and the jump shot really starts like kind of near his hips. So it starts low, takes a while to get up there, but does project as a good defender, plus athleticism and that length, as I mentioned. Now, interesting when you look at his numbers at Wake Forest, because in 2023-2024, counting stats look similar, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists. But last year, or I should say in 2023-2024, shot 40.5% from 3. But this year at Wake Forest, only 27.7%. So which one is it for Hunter Sallis? That's going to be a big skill for him in the NBA if he can prove to be closer to that 40% three-point shooter that he was 2 seasons ago, as opposed to the under 30% that he was this past year at Wake Forest. Of course, for a small guard, that's going to be important. So can he be the next Justin Edwards for this team? Of course, the Sixers signed Justin Edwards as a UDFA last year. Now, he was also a 5-star, but a top 3 recruit, number 1 overall recruit, depending on where you looked. Obviously, comes to Philadelphia, being an undrafted free agent, and made a big impact this year. Got signed to a regular NBA contract after being on a 2-way deal. So I'm not going to say I expect Hunter Sallis to do that. That's high praise for a UDFA, but little reminiscent. Again, a guy that was a 5-star, showed some things in high school. Now, Edwards was still a one and done. Sallis spent 4 years, so some differences there. But you got to like the tools he has, the length at the guard spot. And if that shot can come along a little bit more than it did last year, I think he has a chance to make an impact for this Sixers team, despite being in a loaded guard rotation. Call your shot right now before he even steps foot on an NBA floor. Will Hunter Sallis make an impact for the Sixers this season? Give me a yes or no down in the comment section. Regardless, I'll be excited to watch him in Summer League. Next, we'll get to Igor Milicic Jr., the big out of Tennessee. And Sixers obviously, need more size. We've talked about it quite a bit here on the show. And Milicic at 6'10", 225, not the biggest body you'll find out there, but somebody that can play on that wing at that 4 spot. We know the Sixers, especially if they lose Gershon Yabusele, are going to really have a need at the 4 spot. It's funny, I was talking to one of my good friends and fellow coworkers, Joey Peterson here at Chat Sports, who's a big Tennessee fan. I asked him, what do I need to know about Milicic here? And he told me that he was kind of a frustrating player, somebody that at least once or twice, it seemed every single game, would kind of just make a boneheaded move that you're like, man, what are you doing? He is signed to an Exhibit 10 deal, so if he does end up making the Sixers G League roster, he will get a signing bonus. Great connective player within the offense, making plays for his teammates. Potential as a shooter with a high release and production off the catch, but does tend to struggle defending on the perimeter. Put up 9 points, about 7 rebounds, shooting 47% from the field, 31% from 3 this past year at Tennessee. Not a player I'm really expecting to make a whole lot of noise on the Sixers regular roster, but signing to an Exhibit 10 deal, someone you would expect to make the G League roster at the very least. I did find this interesting note on Milicic this past season. The only NBA, WNBA, or Division I men's or women's player this century to have a game with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals, while shooting 75% from the field, 50% from 3, and 75% from the line. Just an interesting note I thought I would pass along as we talk about some of these UDFAs. 2 more to get to still here on today's show, but a reminder that we are in a tight race to 25,000 subs between us here at 76ers Now and my good friend Nick Roloff and the Miami Heat Report. We both got a pretty big jump during this NBA draft cycle, but still a ways to go for each channel. We're trailing, though, quick math, about 600 subs right now, although we were down close to 1,000 not too long ago. So hit that sub button, lock us in, and let's catch the Miami Heat Report and show them that Sixers fans are better than those fraud Heat fans over there in Miami. Before we get these other 2 UDFAs, of course, the big prize for Philadelphia in the NBA draft was VJ Edgecombe at that 3rd overall pick. It's officially announced he will be wearing number 77. Now, this could change depending on what happens with Kyle Lowry, who, of course, wears number 7, which is what VJ Edgecombe wore in college. I think maybe if Andre Drummond doesn't return to Philadelphia, I think VJ would look sick in the number 1. But for right now, he will be wearing number 77. And if you want to get a jersey, they are already available through our friends at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/V-J. You'd see that right down below, a dash between the V and the J. Again, chatsports.com/V-J. I'll have that link in the comments and description of today's show. So you just click on it, it'll take you to Fanatics, and you can get yourself a VJ Edgecombe jersey today. Number 3 for the Sixers UDFA Tracker, Izan Almansa, the big out of Spain, also signed to an Exhibit 10 contract. So again, if he makes the G League roster, he will get a nice little signing bonus there. So again, a player the Sixers probably envision being a G League guy. Also some good size. They're at 6'9", 220, 7 points, 4 rebounds, only 30.4% from 3 this past year for Almansa. A good connective big here who is able to, when he's in the post, kind of similar to what we talked about with Janai Broom, the Sixers' 2nd-round pick, has that good vision and can make plays when he has it sort of around that low block area. Interesting for Almansa, played for the G League Ignite in 2024, 2nd-round projection before he ended up going to the NBL. Has a decent resume. FIBA U19 World Cup MVP in 2023, U17 World Cup MVP in 2022, and the U18 European Championship MVP in 2022 as well. He's a good athlete, quick laterally for his size, able to switch out on guards, and a good rebounder as well. Solid footwork in the post, but not a good shooter. Struggles at the free throw line. and not much of a rim protector either. So a little bit bigger. I imagine he'll probably be more of a wing, maybe more of a traditional four in today's NBA than a true big. But, player that's young, just 20 years old, and has shown some interesting things in overseas ball. So a good G League pickup at the very least with some athletic tools for Philadelphia. And then we'll end off with the last Sixers UDFA signing, St. Thomas. Now, this is a Summer League invite, so he won't be on a two-way or an Exhibit 10. Just someone the Sixers want to get in for their Summer League team. Played at USC this past season and has traveled a little bit. We'll get to some more on where he spent his stops in college. But 6'7", 235. So, again, good size on that wing. Of course, outside of Hunter Sallis, seems like a lot of these guys, Sixers, were prioritizing bringing in a little more size from Omaha, a senior this past year at USC. 9.5 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 46.5% from the field. Is a guy who can kind of do a little of everything, right? Kind of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of player. But you like these guys that can be 4 or 5 tool players that don't really have true weaknesses in certain areas. Diving into a little bit more here on the player, the type that can do it all, as I mentioned. An athletic 6'7" menace. He can hit threes, get downhill attacking the rim, resulting in drawn fouls and free throws, rebounds the ball as a physical forward, distributes the ball well, and defends extremely well. He has NBA size and projects to be a quality wing who can make an immediate impact. When it comes to his ultimate ceiling, shooting is the question. Part of the issue is a massive volume of shots. Kind of one of these guys who in college was relied upon and took a lot of shots but wasn't super efficient for his school. Of course, in the NBA, that's not going to be a role, right? You have to be able to scale down to the NBA level. He'll need to be more efficient complementary scorer to earn minutes early in his NBA career. But, I think you'd rather bank on that on a guy you're hoping can scale down a little bit but has the skills than a guy who maybe doesn't have the skills and you're hoping to bring him up a little bit more. So that's 4 UDFAs for Philadelphia: Hunter Sallis, Igor Milicic Jr., Izan Almansa, St. Thomas. As of right now, just these 4 guys signed. Of course, Sallis on that two-way, Milicic, Almansa, Exhibit 10s, St. Thomas, a Summer League invite. So, which of these guys are you most excited for? For me, it's definitely Hunter Sallis with that 5-star pedigree, the skill set. And that shot, man, is he 40%? Is he 28% three-point shooter? Somewhere in the middle. We'll see. But, again, similar to the Justin Edwards signing last year. Now, we'll be able to get to see all these guys, I would imagine, in NBA Summer League, which does kick off soon. Sixers will once again be playing in the Salt Lake City Summer League, July 5th to July 8th. And then they'll kick off the big Las Vegas Summer League. That is July 10th to July 20th. They actually will be playing against the San Antonio Spurs and Dylan Harper on July 10th. So that should be an exciting one. We'll see if we can maybe get live for a couple of these games here on the channels, at least the notable ones. We'll see on there, but it would be exciting to get to see some of these guys play. We don't have the Summer League roster for Philadelphia as of yet. Some talk maybe Jared McCain could get in there with that injury, though. I'm not so sure, but when we get that news, we'll, of course, pass it along. This is why you subscribe, guys. We always keep you up to date on all the latest Sixers news, rumors, and it's a busy time in the offseason right now, of course, with free agency coming up. The draft just finished. Trades are going to start to heat up as well, and the Summer League, of course, you always want to know what's going on with these new picks in VJ Edgecombe with Janiyah Broome. They had their introductory press conference today, and I was tweeting about it over on my X page. So some things you would only know if you were over there following me on Twitter. And, of course, anytime Sixers news does happen, I react to it over on X. So give me a follow over there, and we'll see you next time here on the show.